calling for Montreville's release. And those are some of the headlines. This is Democracy Now!, democracynow.org, The War and Peace Report. I'm Amy Goodman. We're broadcasting from Park City, Utah, home of the Sundance Film Festival, the nation's largest festival for independent cinema. We're at Sundance this week to feature independent voices from here in the United States and around the world. Today we spend the hour with Robert Redford, its founder. He's well known as an actor, a director, a producer, but part and parcel of who he is as an activist. He took his phenomenal success and leveraged it to promote his real passions: environmental justice, Native American rights, and independent filmmaking. His activism heightened during the Bush years. In one op-ed piece he wrote, "The Bush administration's energy policy to date is a military garrison in the Middle East, drilling for more oil in the Arctic and other fragile habitats. It's costly, it's dangerous, and self-defeating." Well, since 1980, through the Sundance Film Festival and the Sundance Institute, Robert Redford has helped independent voices develop their craft in film, in theater, and music to reach larger and newer audiences. The Sundance Festival takes as its namesake one of Redford's best-known characters from the 1969 film Butch Cassidy and the Sundance Kid.
I got a great idea where we should go next.
I don't want to hear it.
Change your mind when I tell you.
Shut up.
Okay.
Your great ideas that got us.
Forget about it.
I don't ever want to hear another one of your ideas, all right?
All right.
Okay.
Australia.
I figured secretly you wanted to know, so I told you.
Robert Redford with his co-star and friend Paul Newman in Butch Cassidy and the Sundance Kid. Well, today we turn to an hour interview I did with Robert Redford yesterday here in Park City, Utah. Bob Redford, welcome to Democracy Now!
Thank you. Nice to be here.
It's great to have you with us and to be here at Sundance. It has been quite remarkable for the brief time we've been here so far. When you opened the Sundance Film Festival, you said you want to take this festival back to the roots of rebellion. What did you mean, and why don't you tell us why you established this?
Well, I think probably somebody modified that to add the word rebellion. I wouldn't be that restrictive. But it was true about getting back to our roots. And what I think I did say was that I felt the Institute, which started in 1980, it was started on, I wouldn't say a whim, but it certainly was a risky proposition because it was new and it was innovative and it was going to be dependent on its ability to take risks and to forge new territory with new voices. And that's what we would be doing, supporting the new voices to create a new territory, if that was possible. No one knew whether it would be or not, but that was the chance to be taken. So when I started it, I thought, well, if this works, and I didn't know it would, if it does work, it probably won't last more than, I don't know, a few years. Otherwise, it'll flatline. It'll flatline, it'll start getting too worried about itself, it'll start being too worried about the money it's raising, and then next thing you'll have it get conservative, and then it'll be trying to hold its own, and it probably won't go past a certain amount of time. But on the other hand, if it can maintain its so-called mission and point of view, which is basically creating a platform to find and help support new voices in film, and give them a chance for their work to be seen, and also develop their work at our labs. If it continues to make a difference or to create any kind of an impact, or moreover, continue to create opportunities for the filmmakers, then we'll keep going. So what happened over the festival started, that was 1980. The festival started in 1986 when I saw that the labs were beginning to succeed and that they were developing new work by new filmmakers. But there was no place to go because the mainstream had them frozen out. And there was a category at that time that was pretty much relegated to the humanities and the endowment of the arts, NEH and NEA. And the the funding we got from NEA I thought was good as an imprimatur for credibility, because I didn't know that I would be trusted. They said, well, he's a movie star, you know, so why didn't he pay for everything? But it was restricted. That was a category that was kind of dead. And it just circulated small films on grants that went into public education. And that was fine, but I thought it was a category that could be grown or enhanced. So we thought about fueling that category from our labs and creating an independent zone that would help the industry. Now, it was never meant to go against it or be an insurgency. It was just simply to augment what was already beginning to shrink. So anyway, when the festival came around, it was, let's just have a place where the work can be seen. Okay, so now, 20 some odd years later, watching it each year, and it began to feel to me like it was beginning to flatline and be too worried about its own position and the money that was coming in and so forth. And I thought, nah, we should either close it or start new. So what came to my mind was a T.S. Eliot poem that I've always been fond of, that begins with, let us not cease from exploration. And then it goes in a circular line to the end where it ends with, so that we may return to the place we started and see it as if for the first time. And that sort of was the idea. Let's go back to our roots. And now, 25 years later, for a lot of people, it might seem fresh and new. But mainly for us is to remind us of who we were, when, and what we did, taking new chances and carving new areas. And so that's what this festival is all about.
So here you are, a movie star who's involved with, who yourself have directed and performed in blockbuster movies. Why are you thinking about independent media? You've succeeded so well in the mainstream.
Well, actually, it's because a lot of the films I've made, which maybe some people know about, some people don't, the very satisfying was, I'm not at all dissatisfied with my career or the choices made for the larger films. There were some very worthwhile ones. But the films that turned out to really interest me and excite me the most were the ones that I made that were lower budget early on. When I got to a place in about 1970 where I had been an actor for hire, and I wanted to tell my own stories about the country that I was living in, and the story that I saw that was a little bit underneath the story you were given, you know. I was seeing another story to be told about my own country that I'd lived through experience. And so I asked if I could make my own film, and I had an idea for a trilogy around the subject of winning, because I could see that my country was a country obsessed with winning. And as a little kid growing up in a kind of a lower working class neighborhood in Los Angeles, sports and art was my only out from a bad situation. And I was given this slogan. There's a lot of slogans floating around, and you're given slogans like, it doesn't matter whether you win or lose, but how you play the game. Well, I found out that was a lie. In this country, everything mattered, whether you won or not. And so I wanted to make a trilogy and pick 3 areas of our society that were dominant: sports, politics, and business, and tell a story about the Pyrrhic victory of winning, when winning at all costs. So anyway, that was the idea, and what people weren't too excited about it. I wanted to make a film about sport and wanted to use skiing as a subject. And then politics.
Well, Downhill Racer was the
Downhill Racer was the sports one, and I chose.
And you're a skier yourself.
Yeah, I chose skiing simply because it was a combination of poetry and danger that I thought would be. And there hadn't been any films about skiing. No one had seen that visual. Politics.
But wait, I just want to stick with that for 1 minute. That one, you almost had to take independent, didn't you? You didn't have the full support of Paramount, of the big movie house.
Yes, that probably led to the idea of Sundance, because I didn't have the full support of Sundance at the end. I had it.
Of Paramount. I
thought I did. Yeah, I thought I did in the beginning. I was made a lot of promises, but it was a very low budget film, $1.5 billion. And I had given up my salary, and I was very passionate about it. I was willing to do it for nothing, and it practically was done for nothing. It was real guerrilla filmmaking. But to answer your question, it was so exciting. It was so really, really exciting, and you had all these people pitching in for the same reasons, giving it their all, and it just had a creative energy. What happened was the studio dumped it because they didn't believe in it, and I had to experience that the hard